Welcome back, everybody. We are moving on to the final stretch of the BNC meeting, the Spring 2023 one. This is the workshop results part. As far as I'm aware, there's no set out schedule for who's presenting when, but we have request by outreach workshop that it's going to be among the first presented, if I remember correctly. Okay, I mean, we don't have any like special slides or something. It can just be presented by the workshop facilitators or some of the participants of the workshop. So we can, I guess, then start with outreach. Okay, off to EYP France.
So I didn't prepare any slide because, well, I'm gonna hear my voice instead. So yeah, basically so we did the workshop yesterday, went super well. I mean, like from the people who were there, was cool, yes. So basically what we did at the beginning was to define like outreach in EYP and the way that we see it, why is it implemented in the EYP strategy 2021, 2025. And after that, we tried with Malu to introduce the different outreach activities that we do in EYP France, the different types of program and activities, to show the diversity that can be possible and how it can actually help on like a lot of matters such as finances and HR for other NCs. Well, the intended outcome was at the end to think about how to cooperate together to maybe try to implement that on a more like international level and how to cooperate to have like similar or no like diversity program and outreach programs. Unfortunately, we didn't really have the time at the end, but we had some exchanges with some entities that were interested, so it was really nice. And if you're willing to discuss about those topics and everything, just reach out to us. We're really open. I'm gonna drop my numbers, email, in Slack if you want to. Yeah, quick and efficient.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very challenging which allows us what to do, but you're not really capable of doing. But it's always next up, is there anything else who's also proponents, okay, in that case, we have somebody from NC.
Okay, so basically Lucas tried to do slides. I couldn't upload them on the drive, sorry, Wi-Fi here. But yeah, basically the idea behind the workshop was to actually talk about our like experiences with having staff and employees in our NC, and to maybe give like main points on how to do like why especially having NC employees. And I think that the workshop worked quite well. We had a lot of questions and everything, like literally everything is on the slides that we made, so we're gonna also send them on Slack if you're interested. We all have different experiences with this matter, along with EYP Finland, EYP Sweden, and EYP Germany. So if you're also very interested in how to get employees and the strategy behind it, just feel free to reach out to us too. We'll be very happy to answer all that question. Yeah.
Any questions from the floor regarding NC? Something that we would like to have
Long-term investment.
Long-term investment.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I guess we'll take that into consideration. Long-term goals. Next up. We have anybody who attended the introduce the workshop, how the results to the
Yeah.
what's the most
So we started the workshop with discussing what actually the carbon footprint is of an average EYPer, based on statistics that the IO had for us, which was kind of shocking, I guess. And then we sort of in breakout groups discussed like methods we could reduce our carbon footprint. We exchanged ideas, such as how to reduce food waste, or maybe reimburse people who choose more sustainable means of travel. So it was kind of like also a way to become more aware of what we do, and at the same time become more inspired and motivated to bring it to your NC and see if you can make your events more sustainable. Is that, yeah?
Just yeah, a small reminder that the IO is opening the sustainable engagement fund, so that all these actions that you talked about or that were discussed in the workshop, that you can also maybe find a way to fund them. So that will be opening very soon, I think.
Usually you want green, that's requires some investment from NC side. It's not, it's usually not a priority, but I think it's a good thing to reach towards as we travel around all over Europe and have enormous footprint. Next up, European pricing permission to start. I don't define it. That's
Crisis? Okay, so we live in a shitty world. It's 2020. Every day there is another crisis that occurs. It's true. So yeah, we are laughing. We are happy to be laughing at this. But also at the same time, the network is reacting to these crises because these things happened before, and we had a different way of approaching to these things before. And now there is another different way that we are reacting to these things. You can also see this by going back, like scrolling down to EYP network and NC's accounts. There is a clear difference, but we still don't know how to react or what are the expectations from the NCs, from the GBIO. What should be our stance when we address these crises was the question. And we had, yeah, all of these people as our participants at the workshop. Yep. So this was a statement of the debate, like how many crises resulted in tensions within the network, which led to internal and external communications and discussions. So how can we still work as the whole network to address these, to foster some collaboration between NCs while addressing them and resulting tensions of the tensions between members of the network? Yes. We can go down. Oh no. Okay. So one of the aims of the EYP is to promote international understanding, intercultural dialogue, and diversity of ideas and practices. We also have a strategy pillar allocated to this to foster a peaceful network.
So this is something important for us. And in the last years, we had different international geopolitical conflicts, which result in tension between the network as well. And we want to know how we want to address these crises. So at this workshop, we observed we considered 3 cases. We go down, please. Okay, the cases were to understand the role and impact of EYP, the preservation of the unique EYP approach according to our values, mission, and the strategy pillars, and the continuation of the cooperation between different entities and members of the network. We can go down again. Thank you. So one of the cases that we had was emergency tragic incidents and such as like natural disasters, which has happened closely. So we actually have some examples to talk about. This could happen anywhere. So in such a case, what was discussed in the workshop was that there shouldn't be a controversial stance, but there should be a clear message being conveyed to the network about what can be done. Because sometimes NCs want to do something, but they do not have enough information to take such a clear stance and guide their members. So they expect such a guidance from IO and the GB, which we are trying to do. We are also trying to react to these as fast as we can, but sometimes even if we react within 24 hours, that is not fast enough. So NCs also have some information that they can communicate with us, get in touch with us. So the way that this can work is either you can reach out to GBIO or GBIO can reach out to you first. So there should be a communication being formed, but no one of the sides should wait for the other one because time is very crucial when it comes to these things. Oh, I noticed that okay, we had the same title for this. So the first one was actually, I explained the content of this. The first one was actually conflicting countries, not NCs. So there are different conflicting countries in this world. We don't not need to name specifically, but when such things happen, members feel like they need to be supported somehow. They need to share some information somehow. And when doing this, there were some participants of the workshop who suggested to consult GBIO to do this in order to promote social activism in the best way possible while being in line with our values. There was also clear points being made not to blame other members and NCs about what they post and think about what is the impact of our posts that we are creating. Do we want collaboration? Are we calling people for action? Do we want to spread information about this? Could this harm someone somehow? Because such things have happened before. So coordination is needed, but it takes time. And this is a very complicated thing. There is never a right way to do this, but with coordination and collaboration, we are trying to stay constructive. Okay, there is also last case. Yes. Policy changes affecting entities directly. We have a very successful, let's say, happy example that we had previously, EYP Georgia's case that you might all be familiar with. So you can get into details of that, but just as a general case, when there are some policy changes that affect our NCs directly, what can be done is they are the ones who know this topic the best, so they can reach out to IO. In this case, actually, it was the IO reaching out to you guys. But what happened was that you spread this information to others, and others could be able to repost this, make sure that their members are directed to you to get the right information and what can be done. And it's resulted in a nice way that the ruling party withdrew that policy proposal that they had. So there were questions about who communicates and what is being communicated, like should IO post this, should the NC post this? There's still not like 100% white and black kind of answer to this. but it can be both. So IO can share resources for members and network to know how they can be best involved with this. But it's again the NC who knows the best. An official something that was highlighted in the workshop from this case was the official stance of the network. The IO, the post that IO shared, its statements that the GB share make an impact, and NCs feel relieved when they see such things, because sometimes they do not know how to react to things. So when they see, oh, this is posted on the network, this is a statement by the governing body, it must be approved, everything in the this statement must be correct information-wise. So they feel such relief, and they also requested such things. But here we come back to the questions of what is enough, when is enough? Should the network address all crises? What is tragic enough, maybe even? So there are many questions that are still that still need some answers. So this will not be the last thing that we do to answer this. We will continue this. But in the meantime, you can also initiate the conversation between us and take some steps about, oh, this can be done, or there is this issue which want to, I don't know, bring some attention to it. So yeah, this is something that can only be done by cooperation and needs to be from both sides. And I didn't want to remove this slide because what makes EYP special was the volunteer peer-led format, the non-formal education format, which really relates to this. So we are an active network who has different ideas, who exchanges them. And I feel like I'm boring you with speaking more. But the thing is, I want to keep this because it really shows our network. And since crises affect our network, it's good to think back about, oh, we are a special network because of this, and we have a great impact on the world, not just on our network. So that was it. If there are any participants who were at the workshop who want to add something to that, you can also do it on the Slack channel. But this was it from my side.
Youth workers, youth volunteers, and amazing people in general, on contribute with big and complex topics in the world. Next up, presentation for the elections. I guess
No slides, I'm afraid, but really short. Oh. Well, this is just okay. Alrighty, so we were talking in our little situation about the elections, and the plan initially was to talk a little bit about the logistics of it and how entities perceive the execution and implementation of the rules, etc., blah, blah, blah. Because it is a big process for the IO. It involves updating a database that is pretty massive, where there's only really one big source, which is the members platform, and then asking y'all to check it and actually critically analyze it, see if someone's missing, see if someone shouldn't be there. And generally, we've also received quite a bit of feedback that MCs don't know, which is fair, because how would you, if not through the members platform? And are you necessarily expected to maybe go through every event list in the last year and then see, oh, did this person actually become an official before, blah, 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 why are they not in the members platform, et cetera, et cetera. However, the discussion turned a little bit away from it and into more of the role that the GB plays within the network, and a bit of a disconnect that members, especially, the sort of people that are eligible to vote in the GB elections, for which there's a very low threshold. If you were an official in the last 4 years, you can be a voter in the GB elections as, yeah, and also if you were a delegate in international sessions in the last 4 years. So there's thousands of people in this big pot, which means that a huge amount of them don't vote. A good turnout tends to be around 15%, which means 85% of them don't vote. There's a very easy conclusion to draw from this, which is that the people who are in the electorate maybe don't know or don't understand the purpose of the GB, are not interested in the election, etc. So the discussion really went into how can the GB make itself more, how can the purpose of the GB be more easily understood by members and by NCs? And I should not have let those posted over there. We'll get them real quick. The ideas that were connected here involved both supporting more candidates to run for the GB, having more people be interested in the GB's work so that they want to join it, and having more people and NCs generally be interested in the work of the GB, and actually making this democracy that we have a bit more scrutiny based and all of that, as all democracies should be. So a few of the ideas that came up were an international governance toolkit, something similar-ish to which it already exists in the National Committee and Management, the Development and Management Guide in the members platform. But Jeff, I think, mentioned at the time that when he had to create an international governance training for his NC, he didn't actually have, he had to create it from scratch by taking a lot of different parts from a lot of different things. So just creating a presentation that NCs can give to their members would be amazing already. And yeah, just basically having a guide on what international governance is in depth, rather than, for example, just having the diagram that we have now, which is very cool and very interesting, but perhaps not as in depth as one might like. Yes, staying on this, one very interesting idea was that the workshop participants suggested that the GB could show up to more sessions, national sessions, international forums, just give speeches there. This could be tied to clusters, as some discussions were heading towards, i.e. say that Gunesh is the GB cluster coordinator, I don't know what the title is, for Portugal, Spain, and Turkey, I don't know. And she could show up to sessions in those 3 countries, for example. The idea would be that this wouldn't just be something that the GB wouldn't just be people that you'd see at BNC or at an international session, which are sort of they are events for which there is a very high threshold of involving yourself within the network. For one, you need to be selected, often through 2 levels of selection, and for the other one, you need to be on an NC board, which is maybe like 5 years down the line from your initial contact with UIP, or 1 or 2. Anyway, it's not something that you see at the very start. A delegate that goes into an international session maybe sees the GB once. If they see them also at their national session, that might already be something that connects them and maybe gets them to vote in the next elections. That was pretty cool. Might be expensive to fund all of those flights, but there's ideas that can be had. And I'll let that be something that someone else explores. Alrighty, so another thing would be that often the manifestos and the content of the campaigns for the GB elections are very long form and kind of unengaging. Boring was a word used. We discussed a little bit about the difference between TikTok and Facebook in the campaign methods that exist out there, and even email. It seems like we're even stuck in email a lot of times, where we have these long manifestos, these big PDFs that we then put in the members platform or in a drive, and then maybe 8 people read them. There's also these 3-minute videos, which is more Facebook, but we probably need to be moving towards Instagram and TikTok sort of content. Short, snappy things that are actually relatable, context-based, and just something that you can go, ooh, I'm excited about this candidacy, and I'll hate everyone who supports the other candidate, because that's how democracies run. And that's how you get engagement. That's how you get voter turnouts. And that was pretty cool. I know I'm taking so long. I'm so sorry. On the question of accessibility, a few NCs, I think UIP Croatia and UIP Ireland were the two that have the best practice of summarizing the content of the BNC into very short proposals that can then be shared with their members. And then they give opinions. If you just post a meeting booklet, it's going to be way too much, and no one's probably going to engage. If you post very short summaries and, you know, how this will affect you, sort of content, which is a lot of work, don't get me wrong, you might actually get a lot of members to engage with international governance for the first time and be interested in it, and maybe form an opinion on how the GB is doing. Maybe that can influence how they vote in the next election, or whether they want to vote at all. Cool. Two last things I would say. Okay, three. One is very short. GB is a relatively unengaging name. Governing body is pretty generic, according to the participants of the workshop. International board was proposed. That's very short and snappy. International board, just change that. Have that ready for the next BNC. Also, an idea was to have the IO provide trainings or capacity building generally for candidates for the GB elections, and perhaps even for the BNC board elections, which might be coming up soon. That would mean maybe creating some form of more structured campaign process so that people can just adapt their content to that, provide trainings, as I said. There's also other ideas there that can be explored, but again, just generally, it's hard to be a candidate for the first time. If you don't know how to edit a video, you're just going to record yourself talking for 3 minutes. Then it's not going to be super cool. Maybe if you have a friend who knows how to make a video, then they can help you and they can make it like snappy and cool transitions, music, blah, blah, blah. But how likely is that? Unlikely. No one knows how to edit videos in UIP. Just kidding, but you get the point. Okay, very final thing, social media content that we have for the UIP pages. It mostly focuses when it comes to the GB on big landmarks. We had a GB meeting, GB elections. We elected a new GB. We got this big fancy new partnership, but it's hardly ever about the content of the GB meetings, for example, or the GB is having just, you know, good old calls with MCs and discussing like the deep work that goes into it. We don't engage with the day-to-day, and that makes people feel less attached to it. It feels like, yeah, there's more ribbon cutting than, you know, elbow grease, which is very untrue. These are people who basically have a second full-time job in addition to their job or to their studying. Let's highlight that. Okay, all of that in mind. Questions? Sorry.
Yeah, question. With all of this.
Nope.
Everybody?
People at the workshop were like, okay, so we are here, we are at the BNC, but usually, or even if we are here, we don't really know what GB is, what's the difference between IO, GB, and when we don't know what these bodies are, how are we going to get our members to know about them and vote for these elections? So there were some suggestions like inviting us to the events that Joao also mentioned. You can do that. We also said like we can also send an email to tell you that you can do this, but it sounds very much like we're inviting ourselves to your events. So please, let's keep this more natural like this. This is like an announcement here. You can invite us to your event. It doesn't have to be physical. We can also just join by I don't know, video call or something like that. So if you want to fundraise for that, perfect. If not, also Zoom is possible. What else? There were also some, I gave an example of this last year. Balkan NCs did training together all for themselves, and they invited BNC board, IO, and GB to their trainings to give some modules. And we also gave a module to explain international governance bodies and structures. So that is also an option. So as long as you reach out to us, we are willing to offer you help, but it will probably be very unlikely for us to come up to you and say, hey, do you want a training? Hey, do you want us to show up at your event? It is very unnatural. So please show your interest, demand, whatever you like. We are willing to provide it.
Thank you very much. It's very ideas on what to make the learning value more approachable.
Sorry. Yeah, so the next workshop that is going to be presented is CRM tools. Basically, since Lucas, yes, you are here, you want to present it?
Yeah, sure.
Just wait. We have to plug the speakers are still connected.
Yes.
Okay, just let me then turn on the speaker, and I think I will. Yeah. Okay. The floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I do not have an extensive presentation prepared, but in general, the workshop was about if you as an entity should think about implementing CRM tools, both for communicating with your members and with externals. The reasons for that being that you can easily save all of the communication that you have, and then later can look into what has been communicated both to internals and externals. So we did look at two different CRM tools, Salesforce and sorry, I have forgotten the name because we are not actually using that in Europe, Germany, but yeah, so HubSpot is the other one. I will share some documents on that also. Chris from EYP, what is it? Sorry, not as much prepared as I want this all to be. Yeah, from EYP Bulgaria, he will also be open for questions regarding a CRM tool that you can use internally. But we looked at these two and how you can use them for your NC work. And then we just had some basic questions on if it's really worth it and how you can implement it. And yeah, it is worth it if you want to have it, but it is a lot of work. So that should be put into consideration. So all of the people who attended can now take that information to their NCs and evaluate if they want to follow that route, basically.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lucas. We will just ask if there are any further questions to this at the BNC floor. Okay, I would take that as that everything is clear and people are familiar with how to use CRM tools in their future work, especially in terms of fundraising. And I think the next workshop then, because I have to change the slides, we do have, I think, 2 remaining workshops to be presented, which are from the final slide. Oh, it's 3. Erasmus Plus, jury selection criteria, and ChatGPT. Want to start with Erasmus Plus, but also like we would ask that it's kept up to 5 minutes on the presentation. So anybody who attended Erasmus Plus, you can tell us briefly what was discussed and what were your conclusions, or even potential action plans for the future.
mean, I can
Okay.
also.
EYP Portugal.
So basically, Lucas started by giving us like a sheet, front and back, with questions to fill out about basically our experiences with Erasmus Plus. And in the workshop, we had kind of all types of NC. So we had EYP Portugal, for example, which has never won and probably never will at this rate. And NCs that have all types of people or all types of NCs. So yeah, we just answered the sheet, kind of asked a few questions that we had, but honestly, I don't think there's really much of a point for me to say much, because Luca's gonna publish like kind of a report of what we did. So he's gonna collect all of our answers to the sheet and what was talked about in the workshop, and he's gonna share with everyone. So that's gonna be much more comprehensive than what I would ever say here. So, yeah.
Perhaps, Lucas, if you want to add something to that, or that covered
Yes.
extensively. Just wait. I need to turn on the speaker. No.
Okay, can I talk? Perfect. Yeah, so as the representative for EYP Portugal just said, there was some questions EYP Spain and EYP Germany have worked on, and this workshop was designed to be like just a first look into how each NC is doing, how much they're reliant on Erasmus Plus, and I am now in the process of putting all the data together. I will share that with the entire all of the NCs, but just some numbers are already pulled from the data that I have. Like we had 14 NCs present. Out of those 14, 11 already applied to Erasmus. Out of these 11, 9 were successful with their applications, and one is still waiting on getting back, and one was not successful. So we do see that a lot of NCs actually fundraise via Erasmus Plus successfully. So it is a big part of our fundraising internationally, apparently. Then we also had a question in it about Erasmus Plus accreditation, which is also part of the international long-term strategy. So there were already 3 national committees who applied to accreditation. One was successful, the other 2 were not. So that is also maybe some good information to have. I will, again, this will be something that you can then look up after the meeting that will be shared. And also, if your NC did not attend and you want to add your stance on these questions as well, there will be an option to.
Thank you very much, Lucas. So, yeah, the Erasmus Plus, as mentioned, is a big part of the financial envelope for other NCs and for the international office, or like the ISs. Also, a reminder to everybody, I guess, to frequently check your mails for requests for signing mandates, and to also update the Erasmus Plus sheet that is used to put in partner descriptions, especially the field number 3, which is often left empty. But basically, yeah, try to keep it up to date, because it's it's a hassle to go and edit that afterwards. I know, because I've been there, done that. Finally, or not finally, jury selection criteria is the next workshop that we would like to have some conclusions presented from. Is it going to be you? Yeah, okay.
Jury selection criteria was a fun one where we were because what makes it so that
UIP is a rather homogeneous place in terms of its socio-demographic characteristics, namely class, ethnicity, just general level of education of the parents of the people that participate in our events, where they live. We're concentrated in major urban centers, et cetera, et cetera. We tried to apply that lens into juries and how juries work in UIP. Could they be fueling this? The conclusion was probably. And we thought of a few ideas that could be, actually we divided ourselves into two groups. One is the sad past and present, and the other one is the fun unicorn future. So really doing this very cherry style. The idea is that we wanted to create the amazing future and how we get there, and map the current not so good present, and how we can change it. Okay, so give me a second. The idea then, some of the main points that were registered were that juries tend to be very focused on academic skills, as we know them in UIP. So things like using formal language, having the sort of in-depth knowledge, or just general outgoingness, especially when it comes to academic discussions that don't necessarily lend themselves to any role in UIP subsequently besides chairing, which is very interesting. Why don't we look out for creativity? Do our formats even allow for creativity to be shown by delegates? And is that something that we actually give props for? No, probably not. That's a negative thing. Jury criteria don't tend to really be harmonized or really made objective or operational. What tends to happen is, you vibe a little bit and you see they seem to be pretty good, and then there's a little bit of a discussion and you're good. But we thought about some best practices that exist. Joshua, Mr. Murica himself, actually had a very interesting method that he utilized as a head of jury that involves statistics, lots of numbers. I didn't fully get it. It seems very interesting, genuinely, to actually make the jury work more objective and selections perhaps less influenced by biases that already exist. Level of English, for example, when you think, oh yeah, this person has an amazing English level and they're here, spouting off big words. Yeah, they might be super talented, or they might have just gone to a private school and had tutoring that people in public schools couldn't afford. Fantastic. Okay, so this is really chaotic again, sorry. But the idea that we want to do is have more of a connection between between the interests of the delegates and the interests of the jury team and the interests of the NC. We're not just looking for the people that are going to be most like the people that already make up our NC. We're looking for people who will be in the NC regardless. That entails some form of communication, some form of active criticism of the criteria that we use, some form of formalization, and some form of admission that these biases exist. Generally, and I'm editorializing a little bit here, but I thought that one of the main conclusions was we need to make sure that the bias awareness is something that we're actively considering as part of jury work in UIP. And jury selection, yes. Thank you, Emily. Generally, we should also be making sure that jury work and jury selections expand the diversity of skills of our officials. We're not here to create further chairs or to create further media or to create further organizers. We're here to create all of that. And also further NC board members and also further civil society members. It's just a lot of things. UIP is a profoundly diverse experience. Let's reflect that in our methods and in our jury selections. Thank you. What?
Thank you very much for presenting the conclusions of this workshop. Like if we weren't busy with making a lot of changes to the slides and things like that during the workshop slot, I would actually probably attend that one. But yeah, I personally, I totally agree with everything that I said. Like I think that point of the jury is to select for future engaged members of the NC and the network at large, not just the smartest and the most knowledgeable delegate that will make half of the resolution at the IS. Like that's ridiculous. But yeah, basically keep working on your jury criteria, reevaluate them every now and then, and yeah, I think this will be a good move to diversify and further improve the strengths of our network. Finally, we have ChatGPT. Somebody who attended that workshop, if you can just explain what was talked about and what were the conclusions, also under 5 minutes. Yeah, EYP, okay.
For the looking for more information within the grants, but it also involves when we talk about the selection process, sometimes it can be too hard for the selection panels to identify whether this text was written by a person or the artificial intelligence. So we talked about the measures that the selection panel and NCs can take in order to prevent cheating and to ensure a fair selection process. But at the same time, this topic is still something that we should discover in terms of how this can be useful for NCs. So yeah, just generally talking about the experience, because some NCs already faced positive experience, NCs also faced some cheating from the side of the applicants. So we should be aware that this exists and try not to be too conservative in terms of the technologies, but at the same time be careful with them. That's it.
That was very to the point. Thank you, Maria. We will then, I guess, we have presented all the workshops, all 9 of them. There was a lot of workshops, but as already pointed out at the and workshop proposals, and also even this whole international governance Slack workspace, like it's there to be activity even throughout the year. If you have an amazing idea for a webinar that a lot of NCs would like to attend, like we can facilitate that, and we will be very happy to. With that being said, it is time to move to the Yelena's organizational announcement.
I have a last little announcement for all of you. Please give back the pouches for your name badges, because we will reuse them for other events to be sustainable. Yep. And one more announcement, I will be emailing you on Tuesday for all the documents that I'm missing to process your travel reimbursements. Please get back to me by Thursday, because then it's Easter and I'll be taking some holidays. And if you don't send it by Thursday, your reimbursement will probably take some more time. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Yelena. Yelena, 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 Yelena.
Thank you.
And we are moving to the closing of the meeting, but before we do that, a request from our side, I guess, also sort of organizational. Can you please stash away your placards and the name things into the envelopes and leave them at the front of the table? Also, there's a tradition that has been going on. I hope you already figured that out on the envelopes, that representatives for that year sign it in the front. So if you haven't done that already, go ahead. Point of privilege, you cannot hear it. Okay, so if you check the envelopes, this is something that has started recently, so it's probably not a long list, but it's probably like who was your representative for this and that BNC meeting, and their signatures with them. So if you haven't done that already, now is the time, especially if you will not be returning to the BNC. So please do that. And yeah, we will be moving to the closing of the meeting. First, we will have closing remarks by Pauline, the Executive Director of the UIP.
I totally did not know I had closing remarks, so I'm not gonna see it. Thank you so much. You heard a lot of
People speak. I think it was a really good event and a really great. It was great to just have you here. I enjoyed myself personally. I think and hope that everybody did as well. I wish you safe travels and really do get in touch. Do tell us. Do ask us questions. Do tell us what we're doing right or wrong, and feel free to always. Well, you can reach to me and on Slack or even on the Slack, the general Slack, so that everybody can see the answer. And yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
There's a bit of, let's say, information slides for all of you. So potential dates for the next BNC meeting in autumn, from second half of the October to the second half of the November. There is a poll on Slack. Please, one representative per NC, mark down which is the most preferable slot for your NC, meaning that you have one or two representatives that will be able to attend. The exact slot then will be confirmed once we have, I think, the new BNC board, because they also have to be available. Also, we need to have preferably at least the people from the governing body present. And yeah, also this thing has to be available. It's not always available for us. So yeah, we will try. We, as in the BNC board, not necessarily us, will be deciding on the slot for the upcoming BNC meeting. Although to be fair, like when we were elected, we already known what was the autumn slot, so it's probably going to be finalized soon. Speaking of, there will soon be BNC board elections, opening probably in April. Handover weekend meeting, second half of July most likely, because that's when we are available and the IO is in general available. We're looking for at least 2 candidates. You know, the whole drill. We should have 2 candidates. If not, there's infinite extensions. Preferably 3, but you know, we manage with this 2. What to expect if you're interested in this? General availability, like if you have seen how we reply to things, we sometimes reply with an hour of a message, sometimes it takes us 2 to 3 days. That's okay, especially like if it's not before the meeting, when it's urgent. But yeah, especially when there's BNC preparation things, you can expect there will be more time for you in that. Preparing the booklets, compiling all the proposals, setting the timeline, preparing all the communications material, things like that. That takes a lot of time. You want to add something there?
So one of the key takeaways I think I myself had from working in the BNC is okay, obviously you have to be available that day. You have to work in BNC time, but the main characteristic, and I think it's very specific for international relations and UIP, that you always have a very big spike of work, especially like 1 month before the BNC. So if we have the BNC, for example, in November or October, like July, August, beginning of September won't be that won't be needy when it comes to like time consumption and like time devoted towards the BNC. But like 1 month prior to BNC, the work just like drastically goes up. It cannot be compared at all. You always have to plan that 1 month before the BNC, where you will be looking every day at like emails and like trying to figure out and like chase people to send you the right documents. So the working in the BNC is not like a flat line. Indeed, you have 2 spikes during your like mandate.
Yeah, we would like there for it to be less spikes, or like there's many smaller spikes in between besides those 2 big ones. But yeah, basically there will probably still be those 2 big spikes. I think they're unavoidable because it's something that is done after the deadline for something passes. You need to make a document for it, and it takes time. What else to say? I mean, apply. Was that a point? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Yes. That was on my closing remarks, which is next slide. So yeah, moving on to myself. Closing remarks, like I was not have a very long speech. Seating order. It was related to consumption. It is electricity consumption per capita. Electricity consumption per capita. And it was kind of. I think, sorry, I'm not sure if it's energy or electricity. I actually have to reopen the slide. Probably energy.
I'm not surprised actually to know.
like nothing sustainable.
It's not sustainable. It's in kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Probably. I actually have to reopen the thing to check it. But yeah, thank you for this very engaging BNC meeting. I would love to tell you how many points there were, but we actually don't have the complete record because we haven't been able to put all of them in the sheet. I think it's from what we've managed to insert into the tracker, it's around 200 points, which is a bit less than the last time, but now we had almost 3 hours of workshop, so you know, there were a bit less policy proposals, and I also had a lot of very consensual, like with acclamation approved proposals, which didn't necessitate debate. So it's not a bad thing. We had 37 agenda items, including like 36 and then additional one. That's a lot. Like in general, like we do want to have discussions on everything, but it's hard to keep that pace up. As you realize, that's a lot of time behind schedule, things like that. Even this is behind schedule, but just by 10 minutes, so it's fine. Yeah, we like proposals, good thing, topics of debate are a good thing, but having 37 of them is really too much.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. So I would probably recommend to the future BNC board to try to make it even more efficient or trim down as possible. We hope we were satisfied with the way we carried the debate, but it's not the GA. We're not looking for every MC to have the exact same amount of votes because it's not really feasible. There's 36 of you plus 4. But we managed to, like, during the debate, we don't compare for one MC over the other ones. And if there are multiple MCs which are very active, we always choose the less active ones. We have been interrupting you. I would apologize for it, but on the other hand, I would probably apologize for not interrupting you enough. To be more exact. So yeah, hopefully it was good. I think everything was discussed
until it was exhausted in full. So everybody, I think, got to say what they wanted. We had a very respectful debate. We didn't have to shout, except for the people in the back to be silent. But you know, that's fine. Yeah, it's been an honor and a pleasure to be part of the BNC board, especially as its chair, because I'm at the moment have no idea how I will run. Probably neither of us will. But you know, we'll see. It was like somebody was chatting in the front, like, oh, and yeah, I think it was Daria from in Belarus. Like I was in the process of like having retired from UAP for a couple of times, and yet I'm here all the time once again. So like you never say you're going to retire from UAP, I think you're definitely sure that you are.
Never say never.
So yeah, we'll see how life goes. But in case this was our last BNC meeting, it's been an honor, it's been a pleasure. Our term is not over yet. We will not continue as soon. We will still try to make use of some things that we have in the process, like the top database and some more educational slides, materials, and even some webinars. Or if there's a need for more knowledge sharing with BNCs, we will try to facilitate that. There's a formal request by Andor to add something, which I will accept.
Yeah. So Eric obviously focused on technicalities of the BNC meeting and what does it mean to be at the BNC, and especially what's like in the BNC board. I would like to speak in my own personal name, but also in Eric's name, when I want to say thanks to the people here. Namely, I would thank the IO, Pauline. I would thank the whole IO staff, Joao, Elena, Saskia, who else is here? Well, Yash at one point, obviously. And all the secretaries who were doing the minutes. It's a hard job, and we're always thankful. We as the BNC board don't actually have to do that. I already talked to the GB that we are very thankful for their input and their cooperation. It was a real, I would say, pleasure working with both the IO and the GB. Basically, whenever we have a deal, they always follow through. So that's commendable, you know. And of course, I always have to show appreciation and thanks towards the BNC, or I mean the BNC and the SC representatives. Whenever we made any decisions, we always tried to take into account every possible option and stakeholder. And of course, our main priority, as stated in our application forms, it is to represent the national committees, and your priorities are, in a way, our priorities as well. As I've said, it was an honor doing the BNCs as vice chair. And yeah, it was a truly remarkable experience, and of course,
This was what I was gonna say pretty much. Like we're very synchronized, as you realized. We're both very chaotic and very organized at the same time. Depends, you know, what's how the coin flips. But yeah, as once again mentioned, this is the end of the BNC meeting. Thank you all for joining us, for having patience with us, for having agenda changes, long days, collaborating with us, meetings back and forth on details that we want to have ironed out into proposals that we don't have to change them back, for having
doing a lot of networking, quality among each other and with us and with the staff and with governing body. Once again, this is a prime capacity building and network building event in the UAP, in our personal opinion. So carry that forward. And yeah, from my own, like not just on others' behalf, but once again, thanks to the IO staff, everybody, and the representatives, to all who were attending digitally as well, and all the people who were watching the stream on YouTube. Which I don't know how many were there, but
I had a while guess.
yeah.
Six people at the same time.
Really?
Nice. Yeah, basically something probably to be done by the future BNC boards to make this a more visible thing to the network as well. Because you guys, even though it's very taxing and you know, it's long sitting hours and discussions, we are doing important work for the network. And I think more people should be aware of that. And yeah, without drag this any further, with that, we have closed the BNC Meeting Spring 2023. This is it. Go home. So yeah, it's BNC unofficial page, which is something like
Until around 4:45.
Okay, so yeah, basically try to get your belongings. If you want to hang out with there, it's fine. But that's all.
That's all.
And the applause.
You are giving this to me and not the strategy.
No.
Do I leave here?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Amazing.
I want to sleep.
Okay, let's make
You guys sent us here.
Like,
Okay,